start by asking, do you believe that the department would be better able to defend against the type of threat that we saw a year ago today than the department was back then?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you. And we had a number of recommendations. I'm not going to go through them all, but I know, having reviewed your testimony, having our staff has spent significant time working with your leadership, and that you are making progress to implement the recommendations that are pertaining to the police department. Is that right?
That is correct, yes.
Okay. As you know, we had the Inspector General in, Senator Blunt and I had the Inspector General in about a month ago or so, and he also issued more than 100 recommendations, which we truly appreciated. And he talked about the progress that he knew of that you had made at the time. And we've, of course, after that hearing, as is our job, encouraged you to work with him and to report back on the progress. Can you tell me where you are in responding to this and the progress you've made on his recommendations?
Yes. So at the time when the Inspector General testified, I think we had about 30 of the 103 recommendations that were closed, that were implemented, that we had finished. At the time, we also had another 60 recommendations that were basically in progress, that we had a detailed plan in place, but the plan had not been completed. In some cases, the plan won't be completed until the FY23 budget is approved. So some of these, it's going to take time, but the plan's in place, the work is in progress. So we had basically addressed over 90 of the 103 recommendations. We still continue to work on those. We have since, I think, closed another 5 or 6 of the recommendations. We continue to work on all of them. And in fact, I've assigned an inspector to work full-time for the next several months to look at the recommendations that are not completed and to see what we need to do to complete them.
Thank you. Thank you.
We've got a plan in place to address all of them.
And you understand we are very laser focused here, Senator Blunt and myself and the rest of our committee, on that accountability, given what happened. And so we appreciate that. I'm sure we'll have the Inspector General back next year, and we'll continue this review. Our report found that 75% of the officers, 900 of 1,200, on duty on January 6th were forced to defend the Capitol in their regular uniforms. Many officers could not access riot shields because they were actually locked on a bus. The emergency funding legislation signed into law in July included significant new funding to improve Capitol Police officers' equipment, access to equipment. Do the officers now have better access to equipment they need to do their jobs? And this is something individual officers have spoken to me about as well.
So we've gotten shields for new shields because some of the ones that we'd had were past their expiration date. And we deploy those shields every day. In fact, I'm sure that as you walk around the campus, there's times when you pass through a door and you notice that there's a stack of shields behind the door. So we've got them deployed around the campus in case we need them. We've ordered all new equipment for our civil disturbance unit officers. That equipment, like many things, is impacted by the supply chain issues that are going on. We should have that. My hope is this month, but certainly in the coming weeks, we should have that equipment. That will be deployed. But I think the important part of your question is that any officer that would be deployed as a CDU officer now would have all their equipment. It might not be new equipment, but they will not come out there without everything they need. So we've got new equipment on order. It's upgraded. It's better. And we'll be deploying that as soon as it comes in, and again, hopefully in the next few weeks. But we will send no officer out to work CDU without all the equipment that they need.
Okay, and you mean civil disturbance unit there for people watching?
Correct.
For CDU. And no more locked buses where they can't access it. That was an unbelievable story, just horrific. They're looking at the equipment and they can't get it.
That would not happen again.
Okay. We all remember, as I noted in the opening, the haunting words of the officer, "Does anyone have a plan?" As you note, in recent months, the department has made clear progress with respect to operational planning. In your testimony, you called this game changer, the fact that you have this department-wide incident assessment plan. Can you briefly expand on what has been done to improve preparedness for large events? I know you noted you hired someone who has key experience with that. Anything else you want to add?
So we have an incident action plan prepared for tomorrow for the anniversary of January 6th. This is a copy of it. It's 25 pages long. In it, everybody's responsibilities are laid out. This information is shared with everyone so that a captain who's in charge of one division knows exactly what's going on in the other divisions as well as his or her own. So we are sharing information better. We are assigning responsibilities. People know what their responsibilities are, and we have backups to each one of the different commanders. So the blueprint that has been created we've used it many times since the 6th, and we're very confident that it gives us everything we need to ensure that the planning that we do, the sharing of information, and that everybody on the department understands what their responsibilities are.
As I noted, Senator Blunt, in my legislation, which was importantly co-sponsored by many members of this committee, gave you and, in general, the Capitol Police Chief authority to request assistance from the National Guard in an emergency. It was cloudy at best before and very difficult procedure. How will this improve your ability to respond in potential future emergencies at the Capitol?
Well, clearly, it cuts through the red tape and allows the Capitol Police Chief to make that call directly. I have spoke with the Department of Defense, and in fact, am meeting with them later today, and to make sure that we have the process down, so that if the time ever came that we needed to make that call, everyone would know what the expectations are on both sides of the call. That is very helpful. But I will just say this, that my hope is that with the other processes, planning that we've put into place, that there's not going to be the need for a panicked call in an emergency, that those things will be planned ahead of time so that we'll have better coordination in advance.
Okay. We all speak to officers in the Capitol, and if my colleagues, I know they do, and thank them every single day. And one of the things that we know is that many of them have had their vacations canceled. They have been working significant overtime, and I think sometimes that's by choice. And right now, we are down officers, and this was something that was happening all across the country. Honestly, it's happening right now, but it's something that you are uniquely challenged to deal with. I know there's more than 400 officers short. Could you tell us your plans to change that?
I have short-term plans and longer-term strategies as well. I think the important long-term strategy is that we intend to hire over 280 police officers in this fiscal year. In a normal year, we would hire less than half of that. But because we want to get ahead of attrition that has increased over the last year, we're going to hire 280 officers this year. Our intent is to hire 280 police officers for the next 3 years. That will get us ahead of attrition, and my hope is that will get us to where we need to be in terms of staffing. Shorter-term strategies are to look at hiring, to reemploy annuitants, hiring or allowing for lateral transfers, lateral hires from other agencies, and then also looking at contract security officers that can assist at particular locations where we don't really need an armed Capitol Police officer. And we're hoping that would free up officers to be held over less frequently, to be able to get their days off as they plan, and address some of the staffing issues that are really impacting the morale of this department.
Thank you. And your long-term plan, though, is to hire actual officers full-time?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Last thing, I mentioned the threats against Congress. Many people in this very room, committee members, have experienced them. Over 9,000 threats in 2021 alone. That's an astounding number against 500-some people. And I understand that you've hired these additional threat assessment agents. What steps are you taking to protect members of Congress and the people that work with them?
A better coordinate. What we're trying to do is have better coordination. We can control and we can do a lot when members are on campus. When they go home, their home districts, we're trying to work with the local officers in those jurisdictions to ensure the safety and security of staff there, of offices there, and so we can provide advice and provide recommendations in terms of how to better secure locations, whether offices or homes, but we can also work more closely with the local law enforcement partners to solicit their help. The biggest challenge I think we have is keeping up with the number of threats. I mean, we've doubled the number of officers that investigate these threats, agents that investigate these threats, and if they continue to go up the way they have, clearly we're going to need additional officers to assign to this responsibility.
Okay. Thank you, Chief. Senator Blunt.